Hello there, everybody. Wanted to put together a pretty basic tutorial on how to get started in Timberborn 1.0. I recently have been obsessed with this game. I put a wild amount of hours into learning this game and getting a feel for it, and I just wanted to share this with you guys. This is going to be pretty straightforward. I'm going to just do the folktales. I have Iron Teeth unlocked, but I feel like if you're just getting into the game, you're only going to have folktales. So we're going to start with that. On the starting map, we have these 3 beginner maps. I will choose plains for this one. I'm going to play on normal because hard is a... I mean, it's harder. So if you want a challenge and you want to suffer the consequences of some of the things like droughts and bad tides, pick hard. It's definitely a lot more challenging than normal, but for this, to get the general idea of how to play the game, I think normal is going to be just fine. All right. The first thing we're going to do is name the new colony. And I'll just say, like, new beginnings. Hopefully I spelled beginnings right. Comment, let me know. Alright, anyways, the first thing I always do is pause and check out, get an idea of what I want to do. I have tried this map before, but I may do it. I'm just always thinking of different ways to approach it. So right off the bat, what I notice is we have the food here. This is your starting food. You don't want to rely on this as folktales because it doesn't provide any bonuses for you. It's just a means for survival. So first things first, what I like to do is kind of plan out how I want my initial road network to work. You don't have to get this obsessive about your road networks. I really like city builders and kind of obsess a little bit more about it than others, whereas this game doesn't matter too much. You don't have traffic jams, but I just like to I just play around like it. Alright, so these paths are free, so don't feel bad about just spamming paths everywhere when you're kind of planning out your builds. It's a good way to outline what you want to come up with and then evolve into. And my other starter tip is don't be afraid to just delete things and start over. So as we're starting off, we have 130 food and 0 water. So we are wanting to stockpile some food first, so Gatherer's Flag is necessary. And in order to build things, you need wood. So here's a bunch of wood. Let's cut it down. You also want to think of, like, where do you want to build in the future? And cutting down a bunch of wood gives you some real estate to work with. So I am down to clear cut this little area here as we plan ahead. So you want to make sure your arrows are facing the correct direction as well. So you don't just put down the gatherer flag or the lumberjack flags there, you also have to mark where they're going to cut down. And this tool is very nice because once you click on an area, it only highlights that level. It doesn't go to the next level. So I'm going to highlight all those trees, and they're going to start cutting down those trees, and this is going to start collecting berries. The other thing you want to worry about is your water supply pretty early, so make sure you put that down. This is just me being a little obsessive again about how I want my road network to look. I will probably change this in the future. So I set down a water pump here. The shape's a little awkward. You have to put the pipe down. And in addition to the water pumps, you want to put down water storage. It's an important first step with any colony is. Making sure you stockpile water, because dehydration is a silent killer. Alright, I'm going to unpause it and let them work on it. I'm going to prioritize the lumberjacks first, so they can construct the water, because we're going to need the wood. And then the gatherer's flag second. Also, we have a lot of unemployed already, so I'm going to increase this number. So that there's 4, so they can both gather and construct things faster. Alright, they already got the lumberjacks set up, so they're going to start just cutting down these trees here. And what they're going to use those trees for is to build these. Now, there is an option for storage. You can get that going really quick, but don't feel like you need to rush into it, because each building has its own storage built into it as well. Eventually, you're going to want to stockpile things, though, because once these get full, they stop working. So in order to maximize efficiency, you're going to need some backstock. But at the beginning, you can focus on more pressing issues, like getting water pumps built, and getting dams built, and getting shelter built. And it's going to burn through your wood pretty fast before you're going to need to stockpile it. Food, on the other hand, it goes pretty fast, and it also stocks up pretty fast. And it's never a bad idea to have a backup food supply as early as possible. And I think I'm going to put that just right here. Kind of centralized and easy to get to. I'm going to have this as like a neutral priority because I want them to build this first. Okay. So I want this first, and then I need these second. Another way you can do this is with the assign priorities option here. You can do top priority and just click. And then you can highlight multiples like this. The other thing I want to get going pretty urgently at the start of the game is my first dam, because one of the first obstacles you deal with in Timberborn is droughts. And in order to combat droughts, you need to dam off your water supply a little bit. Let's even take a look at the water supply. What is the source of all the water on this map? Alright, so what I just did was adjust the different layers just so I can see around. You can do this fast with the scroll wheel and holding left alt. So this is a water source here, hidden away in the mountainside. And then I think we have another water source here. All right. So this is what's like the main supply for everything on this side. And we'll talk about why that's important in a bit. And then another thing to note is we have a bad water source here. And if you don't know what bad water does, bad water poisons the land around it, and also will contaminate your beavers if they swim through it. The water's not drinkable, and when it contaminates the land, it kills off any of the vegetation relatively fast. So it's something to be mindful of. But you also need bad water for things later. There's also this water source here, which is actually a cool water source. It's quite a bit. We'll have to really take that into account for future expansion. It looks like we got the water pump going. I like to set this to a high workplace priority because you always want someone pumping water. And what the priority on the workplace is going to do is when there are workplaces available, let's say that you're short on workers, it's going to put workers here before it fills the workers here. Which is helps automate and organize your beavers. Currently, our beavers are all homeless right now, and that makes them a little sad, but we need to take care of things before shelter, sadly. Another thing I like to do is, I didn't do this on this playthrough already, so this is the working hours. There's a lot of important things that they need to work on in the early game, so it works in your favor to work them a bit harder. And this is important when you have like emergencies that you need to take care of. They're going to be happier on shorter work days, like most people would be. So keep that in mind. Like, you don't always want to like work them to death. You evil slave drivers. Let's let this sim for a bit. When beavers have nothing to do with their jobs, they will be sitting in front of their job sites. And that's a good indicator that, hey, let's see what kind of things they can have them do to up our efficiency. Okay, so this water storage has been completed. Just make sure to set it. And if you want an easy way to set all your settings to another one, you press V and click the other one. And now it has the same settings as the one that you copied from. Helps things out. Another helpful hotkey when building is the B key. It lets you copy that building with its settings over to a new spot. So if you like the settings of a building and want to bring it somewhere else, the B key is your friend. Okay, so this is why food storage is important, because we have all these berries still, and this guy is not collecting the berries. So let's up the priority here and have them build. And the other thing that you want to start pretty early on is your efficient farmhouse. And this is going to let you start cultivating the land a little bit. Alright, see? We already have collected quite a few berries, so the food stocks are filling up quite fast. Alright, so I'm going to up the priority here, and then kind of start thinking about how I want to dam off this area. I usually like to dam off the areas that are more of like a little waterfall. But I also like to use dams as like the bridge too, so kind of a multifunctional construction that you have with the dam. It's really useful in a few different ways. And I am thinking I want to put the dam here. Might be too expensive that way. The thing is the dams require 20 logs. And that is pretty expensive. So let's try to look at options to minimize that expense. Yeah, so this is 9. That would need 180 logs versus 7 here, which is 140 logs. So I think early on this is a better option, and then you can think about expanding this way for a cleaner build, but I think this will be fine here. Alright, we'll do it secondary because I want them to build the farmhouse before they start the dams. And then we want to start planting. What are we doing on logs? I assume that these aren't overstocked on logs, yeah. You burn through logs so fast, so I wouldn't rush having log storage early. You want to save your materials for other builds. Let's up the priority on this one as well, because we're about to fill up on water. Okay, perfect. Alright. So the farmhouse is built. We're going to go over to our plant crops here and plant some carrots. Carrots are good because you can eat them raw. They don't need any processing, and they're also very quick to grow. Be mindful about sunflowers. They're pretty inefficient. They're gonna be still useful later, but early on, kind of just ignore them because they're kind of a trap. And if you really want to optimize your farming, 7x7s are good for later use for this item, the beehive, but don't feel like you need to min-max. And just do whatever. Don't get stuck in the min-maxing trap. But I really like the way clean farmland looks, so that's just how I like to play. All right, let's check the workplaces. So we have 2 farmers employed here out of 3, and one of the guys are sitting here. So I'm going to reduce the workforce here, and they're going to get hired as a farmer here. That's one way to micromanage your team of beavers here as they progress through their colony's growth. The other thing that we want to get started pretty early is science, because this is your primary means to unlock and progress in the game. So build it somewhere. I kind of like the way it looks here, so I'm going to put it there. I'm going to leave it... I'm going to have it at a higher priority than the dam. So I want to get someone started right away on it. Alright, looks like they're all hungry, but we have food supply, so the hunger is on them. They need to take care of their own needs. So as you can see, there's a lot of seedlings that are scattered throughout this area. They won't cut down the seedlings. These are going to grow in the future, so these will spawn naturally as long as there's trees nearby. So some people, when they are cutting down large areas of trees, they do this kind of checkerboard pattern to have it naturally regrow. I'm going to speed this up a little bit and let them get this dam built. All right, perfect. So we have someone on science duty. We make sure that everyone's employed. All right. Yeah, no unemployed right now. Everyone has a job. Okay, so right now these guys aren't doing anything, so I'm gonna drop the employee count down and then up the employee count on the builders so that more of them can work on building this dam. Another thing that I can work on, since we're kind of bottlenecking on wood, is to redistribute the workers to get wood. Because while these guys are waiting to harvest the carrots, and these guys are waiting to build, we can expedite this a little bit by acquiring more wood. Oops, okay. I built them backwards again. Oopsie. Alright, so this should help get the wood needed to get this dam constructed. Alright, so we have someone working on science. We're acquiring science points, and that's going to be very important for this next step. Which is getting a forester, which is going to let us repopulate the trees. And in order to build that, we're going to need planks. So we also need to get a lumber mill going. Lumber mill is your first building that's going to require power. And there's a few ways you can acquire power. I think a good spot for it to demonstrate will be right here. So, this is going to require power. You can get power a few different ways. We have a few options as a starter. We have the water wheel, which is going to utilize the current of the river. But we only need 50 to get the lumber mill going, and we can actually build a pretty cheap power generator for only 20 logs. It just requires the labor of another beaver. We got plenty of those, so we don't have to worry about that. Alright, looks like the plan of extra wood choppers is indeed expediting this quite a bit. Alright, we're gonna need a storage supply for our carrots too. The farmhouse does hold 50 though, so that's going to be nice as well. Let's just put a warehouse for carrots here. And it's going to be extremely low priority because the carrots aren't even being harvested yet, so we don't have to worry about that just right now. As the most important thing early on is getting this dam constructed. All right. And the very first dam of this playthrough has been constructed. So this is going to be really cool. It's going to keep the water here even in times of drought. And that's going to be very useful. And we'll be able to display that when we have our first drought. The other useful thing that it can provide is a bridge. And hey, look, we have more wood over here. And not only is it any kind of wood, it's oak. And these give 8 logs per tree. So it's going to be really useful for progressing. And then we have more trees here. Birch are less impressive as they only provide 1 log per tree, but it is still wood regardless. And we also have our lumber mill as well. So now that we have that, our big dam construction complete, we can start redistributing the workforce here. Now we don't need the 2 lumberjack flags here as the trees have all gone. So I'm going to pause this one because it's going to be useful when these grow back. And so that leaves us with some extra employees to distribute. So we have 1 employee here and 1 employee here. And that is going to start constructing our planks, which use 1 log for 1 plank. So that's what I'm saying, like you don't need to rush your log storage early on because you're going to be using a lot of logs. Alright, so I have 3 unemployed right now. And a bunch of sitters. What can we do when we have this downtime? We can build another science building to help with progression. And also, we can start maximizing the wood a little bit over here. And over here. The carrots are starting to be harvested. So we can actually up the priority on this warehouse and get that built. Alright, and as you can see, our friend Nyabingi here is providing power to the lumber mill. So that's a good, cheap alternative to the water reel that you can get going right away. And then I put this in a spot where it allows me to upgrade to a water wheel later. So that's something to be mindful of when you're building, is always build with expansion in mind. And if you don't build with expansion in mind, build with just tearing it down in mind later and building something that you like better. Alright, so the carrots, since I don't have the warehouse complete, are going to be stored in the farmhouse. And as you can see, 50 carrots. Next thing to think about is starting their shelter, as what's going to happen is these beavers will end up dying of old age, and if you don't repopulate... Sorry about all the snoring. Well, then you won't have any colony to look after, and you'll have to start a new game, so... Doesn't look like there's too many old people this far in, but they're probably going to age out soon, especially if I'm working them 20 hours a day. So I should probably start building them houses within the next couple days. I'm just going to get rid of this tree. It's taking too long here. It's gonna annoy me to wait for it without this connection. Okay, good. So now we have this dam that's a bridge connection, and it's gonna allow them to create this lumberjack space to get all of this wood here and here. Okay, great. So I'm actually going to pause one of these lumberjacks, and Patty's going to move over here to chop down trees. And I'm also going to pause this gatherer flag because berries are a low priority food for this group of beavers. And then I'm going to set him over to collect the carrots. Oh, good, we have planks going. Now that we have planks going, we can buy the forester. We already have 73 science points, and we can unlock the forester, which is a very, very good early game purchase. And then I am going to put the forester here. When you're placing down a forester, it shows you the area that it can contribute to. That's this blue outline here. So when you're placing it, be mindful of that, because that is the area you're able to utilize the forester, which is going to allow you to plant trees. All right, time to think about building shelter now. So another thing I haven't really talked about is building around the arable land. So as you can see, all of this green area is it's nice and hydrated, and you can grow things such as trees, and all your farmlands rely on it. Is directly related to the water. You can expand this by moving the water closer to these dry areas, and it is going to be also able to grow things. But early on, if you really want to maximize your area of like arable land for farming and tree growth, you want to put all your constructions more on the dry areas. So that's kind of like the building strategy I've been kind of taking advantage of here. As far as aesthetics go, I like some of the buildings closer by, and in addition to aesthetics, it's going to help with efficiency because it's less distance for them to walk to do their jobs. So you want the forester next to where they're going to plant all the trees. You want the farmhouses next to the farms so that they don't have to walk very far. And then where they live, I mean, you want it to not be very far from all the action as well. So you want to keep a balance. But to start off, these house 3 beavers. So technically we only need 5 so far. Another thing I haven't talked about is when you're placing buildings, you can actually change where the entrance is by pressing the F key. And that's going to organize your pathing a bit better as well. So keep that in mind when you're placing buildings down. Alright, so that's 5 lodges. And I also put this campfire down. This campfire is going to be important for a separate reason, but I like to have it around my housing area. And maybe, just maybe, these poor beavers can stop being homeless. Alright, so you'll notice I have 1 vacancy. Where is that vacancy? It's the forester. Our brand new forester that we just built. So let's take a look at our jobs here. We probably can ease up on the constructors right now. Actually, I'll leave the constructor. I'm going to ease up one of the inventors and have them work on forestry. The way this is going to work is we're going to plant some trees. Now, the different trees have different efficiencies. The birch is your fastest growing tree, but it doesn't reward you for much. It only gives you 1 log. That's not to say it should be counted out. It's still worth having a few of these around, as you're always going to need wood. So I like to have a few. The oak, on the other hand, as I stated, gives you 8 total logs per tree. That's a really nice looking number. However, the birch takes 7 days to grow. The oak takes 30, so you need to wait. You need to wait for a while. So eventually you're going to have more oaks because they're going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. But you're also going to have a little patience with them. I'm going to change how I lay this out. You want the oaks to be planted first. And it makes sense to have them planted closest to the forester. Looks good. What I'd like to do in addition to birches, oaks, and is pines. So let's plant a few pines. Pines are a good middle ground between the two. You may be asking about the chestnuts and the maple. I'd say if you're committing to the maple, you might as well be committing to the oak. The maple and the chestnut are there for different reasons besides getting wood. So, kind of ignore them for a bit. And then the extra birch trees, let's just put a few down here. And then fill this whole area with oaks. Because we need trees. And it's probably worth getting rid of these berry bushes, but we'll leave them for now. Alright, and your forester's going to be busy for a while. I'm going to preemptively do this because if this is my tree cutting area, I'm going to need probably a second lumberjack over here. It looks like the first house has gone up. And it is already occupied. We have reduced the homelessness by 3 now. Alright, good. And we're also starting to stockpile the carrots. Interesting. This lumberjack reaches all the way down here, which is nice. I need 1, so we can keep Patty cutting down these oak trees. And then Angie's going to be busy planting a whole forest. So good luck, Angie. In fact, I am going to remove these berry bushes. Sorry, berry enjoyers. They just have no value for our little folk tales here. I mean, there is some value to the blueberries, but we're not there yet. Alright, good. The fire pit's up. And what this fire pit does is it provides a social relaxing area for our beavers. And that's going to increase our well-being score. And what does our well-being score do? It gives us bonuses, such as work speed, movement speed, and longevity, or life expectancy. So this is going to let them work faster, move faster, and live longer. So making them happy is very good. How's our supplies doing? We got 13 planks. And 6 logs. So we're maxed out on planks, and you're actually going to need a lot of planks. So this is something worth stockpiling a little bit. I'm going to put a small pile here. All the houses are complete, and you're going to see this number here. 2 free beds. What that means is that our beavers are going to have beaver babies to fill these beds up. So folktales, they naturally reproduce when you give them shelter. So that number is based on how many unoccupied beds there are. So expect 2 more beavers to be born. And as you can see, our well-being score is going up. And that's going to just give us bonuses as we progress here. So something that I really like about Timberborn is that in addition to like well-being buildings, you have decorations, and decorating your colony actually has good benefits. It also increases your well-being score. So things like shrubs, street lanterns, placing them is important. And you get rewarded for making your little beaver colony beautiful. So the easiest first step to that is adding a shrub. As you can see, as long as they pass by this area, they will get the bonus for seeing the shrub. And we're already getting it for that first shrub. All right. Getting a lot of carrots stocked up. Things are looking good. Oh, I was waiting for this. The beaver has chipped his tooth. So it makes him very bad at cutting trees now. So in order to combat this, we need a well-being building called a teeth grindstone. Let's put that by the wood chopping, the lumberjack flag here. Alright, now he's sharpening his teeth. Poor guy. Now, I don't think I need this lumberjack flag anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. If you want to delete things without this warning prompt here, you can hold down shift and delete it instantly. Just fill that in with the carrot spot. What we got here? Injury. Alright, in order to take care of injuries, we're going to need a medical bed, which costs 80 science points. So let's buy that. I'm guessing that happened at the lumber mill here. I have this little spot here, so I'm just going to put it here. I'm gonna set this to carrots because I'm going to expand my farming here in a moment. I want to set my forester to prioritize oak first, as they take the longest. So it makes sense that you would want the first log to be planted to be the oak. I don't think I need to micromanage the other ones, but I think prioritizing oak is very important because you just have to wait. It's probably worth putting a stockpile close by here. Question is, where do I want to put it? It's gonna hurt me if I unplant some of these oaks. I might have to do that to make room for the stockpile. Actually, I see a spot for it, but I'm still gonna have to, unfortunately, unplant them. That's okay. Alright, as you can see, we already have one new beaver born. And it's before anyone aged out, so we are combating old age already. All right, let's show off something that might not seem intuitive at the start. We're going to buy these stairs. And we're going to build stairs just directly into the water. Oh, perfect. We have our first drought approaching. So in 3 days from now, the beavers are going to experience their first drought. So they have 3 days to prepare, which we have water stockpiled and we have food stockpiled. So let's make more of a stockpile though. I think it is important to place water in areas of high traffic, or like where your workers are that could be potentially far away from water, so that they don't have to deal with a thirst debuff in their areas. So having water storage near their shelter and some of their workplaces there far out is pretty beneficial. All right, perfect. So we actually have these stairs now that lead directly into the water. I put these here because I wanted to show off how this is helpful. We can now construct a water wheel here. And if you look, actually, let's look at this. So this number changes as we get further into the stream here. So we're actually going to get more if we build it out here, but it's just easier right now to just build it here. So I'm going to build it there. Now, I think they might have been able to build it diagonally here. But in the case that they couldn't, they can now walk through the water to build it. And if they walk through the water to build it, we can see, we'll be able to see what happens when they do that. All right, it looks like they can build diagonally here. So I don't get to show why it's nice that they can walk through the water. But I'm going to build another path regardless. Min-maxers are probably shuddering at the thought of the placement of this water wheel. But that's okay, we can just rebuild it later. You can also use the B hotkey to copy what you've planted. There's just more quality of life, kind of. Way to play. Another idea is I perhaps could have built 2 foresters to work on this giant forest planting project, but I think it's going to be fine. Pause this lumberjack and unpause this one to cut down these remaining trees here. I'm actually going to put this on a lower priority because it's not going to do anything for us during the drought. Alright, so we have all this wood up here. And you see these trees, they're all dead trees, and they're only good to us chopped down. So don't feel bad about chopping and clear-cutting dead trees, as they don't plant saplings like the live trees. So if you see all of these dead trees here, it's just free real estate. Now, there is a lot of trees up here, so I'm getting to a point where I can use resources to make small piles like this. And when our dear friend Merzalkree is finished, oh, Merzalkree's showing off the benefit of this. So, the act of simply swimming through the water here is providing the wet fur bonus. You can get this a few different ways, but an easy way to do this is have them pathing through water. So if you can give them an excuse to path through water, try to do it. All right, so I need to. Oh, all right, I always do this. I always have these extra trees sitting around, and I'm wondering why they're not cutting it. It's because I didn't have them marked for cutting. Comment if you do that too. And if you've made it this far in the video, I'm starting a new series on a new channel here, so make sure that you hit the subscribe button and hit the like button to help the channel grow and get more eyes on the content. Appreciate you guys. Okay, we're 1 day away from the drought. Now, it's actually also going to be beneficial to have... There's a spot here. And before my guy plants, I want to take advantage of it. Thinking ahead. This is a good spot for a tooth sharpener, so let's put it there. We're not going to need this one here anymore. And I'm going to demolish it, and it's going to refund me 4 logs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that changes with difficulty. But overall, it's 4 out of the 5 logs it took to build it. So there's a little bit of a penalty for building and deconstructing, but it's not all that bad. Excuse me. Now, it may seem like this is potentially a bit overkill on the tree planting, but I promise you there is a large bottleneck on wood in this game. So if you feel like you're overplanting trees, you're honestly probably still not planting enough trees. Okay, we have our first dies of old age. So now we have a little bit of vacancies. So let's check what's vacant right now. It's like the forester and a lumberjack flag. This one. All right, so we can pause this. And we can pause this one. And I believe, yeah, he's going to work over there. And we have less work for construction right now, so we can double up our scientists or inventors. Okay, we have our first drought. Now what's going to happen is the water sources that we looked at earlier, they're all going to stop producing water. And as a direct effect of that, any place that no longer has water is going to dry out. And all of the plants that are within these areas have the chance to end up looking like this. But this is why we built this dam so early. Because what's going to happen is when the water dries up, we have some water trapped behind the dam. So it's going to keep everything hydrated for that much longer. In the event that we didn't have a dam built, ideally we would have a large stockpile of water and a large stockpile of food, which I believe we have both of those things. Yep, see, we're already drying up on this side, and the water is staying here. The next thing I want to buy is either the levee or the platform. The levee is going to be important for something that I may need to take care of later. But the platform is looking like my next purchase immediately. So I can start building up. I'd also like to build another house. And I'm brainstorming where I'd want that next house to be. Alright, so it's the drought is pretty short. And I think we've prepared very adequately for it. So we're in no immediate danger right now. One thing that will be directly affected by the drought is the ability to plant on dry soil. So since the water is not reaching this area, it's dried everything out. So you can't plant anything new while the soil's dry. It can be there if it's already planted, it enters the drying phase, and it tells you how long it can last. But you can't plant anything new in soil that's dry. So something to keep in mind. So what the forester is going to do is divert their attention to where they can plant. So even though they have the prioritized research oak, they've maximized their oak that they can plant. So they're going to move to the pines and the birches that I have available for them to plant. All right, excellent. Now let's see what happens after the drought ends. You're going to see water starts coming out of the water sources. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be instantly solved. You still have to wait for the water to naturally flow back to your dammed off areas. So you have to plan around the little delays here. And you can, as you can see, as the water refills the river, the dry soil rehydrates and becomes arable again. It's always highly satisfying to watch. Now, something I do want to point out here is the elevation matters when it comes to hydrating the soil. So as you can see, it doesn't spread as far as the lower elevation soil. And this is going to hold true to a little bit of flooding here. It's a little bit of a backslosh from the dam. But as I was saying, when you're considering hydration and elevation, the higher up the land is going to determine how far your hydration will go. All right, that looks like a good stopping place for this episode. I'm going to continue this playthrough and keep progressing this colony of beavers here. So I hope you enjoyed the progress that we've made so far and maybe learned a thing or two about surviving in Timberborn. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed what you see. Leave a comment, a like, and let me know what you think. Hope you guys enjoy the new series and hope to catch you on the next episode. Thank you guys.